So at Meaningful World, our vision is to nurture a generation of individuals who are guided by peace to foster a meaningful, peaceful, and just world in which every individual enjoys physical, emotional, spiritual, economic, as well as social and spiritual health. We are affiliated with the UN, and we have many programs at the UN on International Day of Peace and CSW. We have internships, if any one of you interested, and fellowships as well. And we have three-pronged approach in all of our humanitarian missions that we do. We've been in 46 countries bringing voluntary humanitarian relief, emotional relief, and emotional healing programs. And the first prong is healing and education. As you saw the discussion about Israel and Palestine and the conflict continues there. Why? Is because both cultures have been extremely traumatized. As the rabbi mentioned, Israelis are majority are children and grandchildren of Holocaust, and Palestinians are have been in the camp for 75 years with no coming out of the camp. And I raised that question because I was there helping in Palestine, and the roads are extremely atrocious, and I see a wonderful highway next to it like New Jersey Turnpike or 95, and I'm telling the driver, take that one, I am going to vomit, because he has to go zigzag, zigzag, holes are big as the vehicle. He said, I'm sorry, we don't have Israeli plates. That's only for Israeli plates. And I thought, 2015? The roads are separated? This is apartheid. Why is nobody talking about this? And then we were admiring acres of olive trees. And in the morning, going back that road, there was no olive trees. Acres. They were cut by illegal settlers who are planning to build homes. And all the Palestinians will be suffering without food. The second area that we focus on is on research and publishing, and most of that you will see in our books. And this one on forgiveness, reconciliation, I teach a course at Columbia for psychology master students on forgiveness. For the first time, the F word is used in academia. Before that, they were like, no, this stays in temples and synagogues and churches. That's religious. That's not scientific. The F word, forgiveness, is not scientific. And now, that was 20 years ago. Now, there are wealth of research, and we have so many research in this book that you can read and learn that those who don't forgive and hold on a grudge, just like holding on the ball, they get sick more often because the immune system is holding on to the fight mode rather than letting go and embracing something more beautiful in your hand, let's say. I know you didn't like the letting go because that was all the way down and there was a shift, but we're hoping that with them letting go, the next step would be integrating something more meaningful in their life that they love and get inspired by. And the last is very important, is changing, revising policies. Because here we are in Palestine, it happened in Romania, it happened in Haiti, and it happened in Lebanon. We help a domestic abuse survivor, and then she has to go back to that husband. In Romania, the husband came in the middle of the night and dragged her from her hair. Policies have to be changed. This is antiquated, really, really sick policies that is really causing a lot of the problems. So forgiveness is very important practice, not just for your own, but for collective, intergroup, intercountry reconciliation. And then we have 2 books, and they're filled with research about the rituals each country that they prefer, they use for healing, for trauma. How do they gather their resilience? How to make meaning, make sense of the nonsense that happens around the world. And our last book, the 5th one, is on Forget Me Not, emphasizing about self-care, because these conflicts have been going on for centuries, and we're not learning the lesson, Douglas, so we're stuck in this world. So we need to take care of ourselves first, and then mind the conflicts and other problems that are going on. If we don't, then we're not a vehicle for peace. We're a vehicle for complexities and diseases. I came from, my father is an Ottoman Turkish genocide survivor from 1915, where over 2 million Armenians were butchered and the rest were thrown out in the deserts of Arabia. And then, thank God, Syria was so kind and opened its doors to Armenians, and that's where I was born, in Syria. So I always say I'm a Syrian refugee. I'm very proud Syrian refugee, and it wasn't, although the Ottoman Turks made it a religion issue, but Syria was also an Islamic country, and they opened their arms to Christian minorities, and they're still there. My cousins' relatives were going through this 8 year of horrific war and suffering. And one night we were finally able to get in touch with my cousin and in Syria, in Aleppo, and she was saying, please, you're at the UN, please tell them at least, can they not shell us at night so we can sleep? The noise pollution, they weren't able to sleep. They're shelling during the day, they're shelling at night, and when are they gonna have a sleep? She was crying, begging to me, like I can make a difference at the UN. It was very sad, and many people were left to die in the deserts of Arabia from no food and thirst and all that. And of course, America experienced one atrocity. They're very quick to create atrocities around the world in every country, but this was the first that Americans really experienced it on the ground. And I hope that we learn something from it, because trauma without learning, without making a new meaning, is just going to repeat. It's just going to be a cycle. So, in '99, I went to share my research in Turkey, in Istanbul, and I was threatened every day by the government. They have, like KGB guys are called MIT, M-I-T. They came and threatened to kill me every day because I was going to share our research about the Ottoman Turkish genocide. They have an Article 301. If you say the G word, genocide, you would be either killed or put in prison. So God helped me that I came out of there. And as you said, I was in the fight mode so much that my immune system was open to all diseases. I had a fever. You see, my face was like red, 102. I was having diarrhea. I couldn't stop the physical because I was so scared and threatened to be killed all the time. So what we did is we researched the generational impact as well, and we found that that anger from the sadness and the hurt has gone to 3 generations. And that's very sad, because we're just recycling this negativity, and we're passing on, just like diabetes and congestive heart failure, we're passing this trauma, so we are all traumatized. That's why we can't empathize with one another. That's why Israelis can't empathize with the Palestinians, and vice versa. and they're at each other. They're not going to reconciliate without a neutral mediator, and not America, by the way, another neutral mediator, like someone from Scandinavian countries, if you may, because America has caused too many damage for Palestinians already because of the ongoing support and of the settlements, in the illegal settlements, apartheid wall. I mean, we just brought the Berlin Wall down, and Israel comes up with another wall. I mean, like our president thinking about walls. And the generational trauma is a scary one because you don't know you're carrying. The sugar diabetes, you know you're carrying. But the trauma you're carrying, you are not aware of. It's like a dead chair, dead weight, excuse me, that you're carrying on your back all your life, and all of a sudden you say, why is my back hurting? It's because you're carrying all this trauma from your grandparents. You don't know. I was carrying it on my belly. For years I didn't know what was going on. So I want to just help you to let it go, let the weight go, and then use it as a stepping stone. Come up and see the horizon, and see, open your eyes and your heart. Not just educate your mind, but your heart. That's where the resolutions are, here in the heart. And you'll be able to do that when you are not carrying the weight on your back, because you can't even manage your life going like this. And all of us are doing it on some level or another, in some degree or another. So let's today commit to letting it go. We worked in... This is in Congo. We worked there and we saw the children carrying the trauma. We worked in Rwanda, we saw the same. We worked in Armenia, we saw the same. We worked in Saudi Arabia, and we empowered the women, empowered them so much that they said, we're gonna drive the cars, we don't care. And they went in the court and started driving cars, and then they were imprisoned. But finally, this January, they're going to actually, the law is changing, and this January they'll be driving. So my time is short, so I'm gonna go. The main reason I chose forgiveness for my career is because I was suffering from the Ottoman Turkish genocide, generational pain and anger. So I met Viktor Frankl, and he helped me. He said, you have to forgive. You have to help your families and communities forgive. And I was dumb, like shocked, and I was looking at him, and I'm like, forgive? Nobody acknowledges, not American government, not Turkish government, not this government, only 28 countries. And he said to me with his heavy Viennese accent, how long you plan to wait? And it was true, we're waiting for perpetrator to validate? No, we have to learn to validate one another, because many perpetrators are either dead or they lie. They lie. Countries lie. They look at your face and lie. So forgiveness is not, because before I share what it is, I'm going to say what it's not. It's not about justifying the act itself of rape, genocide, incest, whatever it is. It's not the act. It's not forgetting. It's not letting go of your rights. It's not letting go of justice. Because if you don't have the anger, you can pursue your justice in a more healthy way through lobbying and writing and human rights, etc. But when you're angry, you yell and scream and you lose your point. It's not about the letting go of your human rights, and it's not a one-time exercise. Now, there are so many myths about forgiveness. Every lecture, someone comes to me and shares another myth. If I forgive, I will forget. Guess what? Unless you have Alzheimer's, you will never forget. Unless, if I forgive, you will do it again. Actually, the research shows the opposite, that the perpetrator gets like their consciousness gets awakened, and they don't do it again, most of the time. If I forgive, the enemy will be set free. If I will forgive, I will hurt those who died. If I forgive, there will be no justice. If I forgive, I will no longer be a victim. Who will I be? That's important. Victims are trying to get this entitlement, and that's called destructive entitlement. I was harassed in high school in Fort Lee because I was from Syria. I was an immigrant. Right. Now, is it the same way with every person that comes from another country? No. So if I need the anger to live, people think that the anger is energizing, but it's taking you to destruction because it's poison. So forgiveness is, please write this down or take a picture. This is my definition of forgiveness. Forgiveness is shifting from your automatic knee-jerk reaction. What's your automatic knee-jerk reaction? Somebody kicked you, you want to kick them back harder and faster and more painful. That's your id, and ego wants that. But you will instill your consciousness, and then you will behave accordingly. So, shifting from the automatic ego reaction to a non-reactive, mindful, conscious, purposeful response, not a reaction, a response, considering that the other person, yes, they did something crazy, but they're human beings, and we make mistakes to see if we can reconciliate. But when you see that they still continuing their negative act, you have to protect yourself, not engage in that kind of destructive environment and relationship. So, very important. So, people had so many difficulties with forgiveness, we separated the for from giving. So, for giving to yourself, because a lot of even my clients said that we started half an hour late, so I have another 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. So it's for giving to yourself, a gift to yourself, for going on, ongoing, unnecessary hurt and pain and suffering and holding on, and for getting on for good forever. So that's why we need to disarm ourselves from all negativity, anger, greed, envy, and rage. It's very important. And when I addressed this at the UN, they first rejected it, saying, oh, we're talking about nuclear disarmament. But hello, no nuclear weapon is grown from Mother Earth. A man is making it, and a man who has all these negative feelings. Once you change the feeling, guess what? They're going to build peace and forgiveness gardens. They're going to plant flowers, not nuclear weapons. So that's why we have handouts for you to check in every morning and release yourself through checking in the emotional intelligence handout. If you don't have it, raise your hand. This is very important. We focus on the anger, but the anger is secondary. There are many other feelings that are fueling. You need to find what that is, what fuels your anger. And the anger causes all this destruction in the neurological, skeletal, immune, lung, brain, skin, GI, all the systems, and the psychological. And many people think, in the beginning, when I started talking about forgiveness, they said, oh, you're too naive, you must be, Pollyanna, and you must have not had any suffering. Well, Gandhi says that we can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. I would say forgiveness is the attribute of the person who has healed themselves from the trauma. Because as long as you're traumatized, you have difficulty forgiving. You need to heal yourself first. And as my other mentor, Maya Angelou, talks about, hate has caused a lot of problems in the world, but it has not solved even one. The same with wars. So everybody's giving me the finger, so let me forgive people in your life, even those who are not sorry for their actions, because holding on to the anger only hurts you, like was demonstrated by Douglas. Uh, and replace and instill meaning. Of course, every trauma, you have to rediscover a new meaning. That's another opportunity. Universe, God, whatever you believe is given to you as a gift, as another chance. So that's why we have the 7 steps that Lorraine is going to talk about, 7 steps of healing. Here we're working with the men, because men are really the ones who initiate a lot of the traumas, wars, and conflicts. And 98% of rapes are done by men, and 98% of serial killers are men. We're losing the men. I'm glad to see men here. Let's please work more closely together. If we don't work on our own anger and our own justice, when we are oppressed for generationally, and the oppression goes from top to bottom, government down to the people, and the people here trying to negotiate, reconciliate, talk, and nothing, the government keeps pushing down. So the frustration is building up and up and up. It's not going to blow up. It's going to blow horizontally. And who am I hurting? I'm hurting my sisters and my brothers. Without even being aware of, I'm hurting them. Generation, continue that trauma, continue that violence. So we call that the crab in the bucket syndrome. How many of you have seen crabs in the bucket? Yes, you notice one crab tries to get up, second one, yeah. The last 2 slides, this is the crab in the bucket. Don't be a crab in the bucket, pulling one another down. And engage the Mother Earth. Here we are in Palestine Peace and Forgiveness Gardens and other countries, Romania, Syrian refugees, Africa, Armenia, Congo, Haiti, Middle East, and also we educate through the media. So this is the last 2 slides. You see here human silhouette, and there is another one, another 6 of them, and this red dot is the fetus, and it's 7 generations. The message here is that for us to be mindful what we do, how we intend, what we think, and how we act, and decisions we make, because it is passed on to 7 generations according to indigenous people.